that's life. That's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May. But I know I'm gonna change that tune when I'm back on top in June. I said that's life.
As long as we've done this, everyone has always said, get Peter on. So it's been a very long time coming. Perfect time when we're talking to these international guests. I feel like you have a lot of good insight. I feel like you do a lot of the higher end stuff. I mean, from what I've seen overseas. I feel like when you go about installing, your number one criteria is always, no matter what, just sound quality, even if it's at the expense of doing crazy shit in a car, right? And I feel like that's a lot of what I've seen you do, like front subwoofers, glove box subwoofers. I mean, you just do all sorts of craziness to create the best sound quality. So I'd love to know the background behind all of that, and I guess where you got to where you're at now with your YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff.
I think probably I've been lucky because on this side of the pond or in UK, they're not so restricted on what we can do to a car. If I hadn't started my journey at a place where I get more freedom, then maybe my journey would have been different. Because I went crazy around 2014, I think, when I started my project with my old Honda. That's what most people know as Peter, Blue Honda, IB subs and all that madness. Full custom dashboard. If I hadn't done that, maybe everything would have been different. But once people heard the system built to that level, then everybody wanted the same.
When you're saying about the modification to the car, I've always heard stories about how, like, in Germany, there's such strict regulations on what you can do to modify a car. You can't, it's like even wheel size is restricted, and they look at what we do in America with big wheels and think we're stupid for doing it.
Yeah, they even check if you have modified suspension. If the gap between the tire and the wheel arch is less, then police is going to pull you out. Let's say if you have an event where you will expect many tuned cars, they will check the guys if they have the official paperwork for modified suspension. It has to go through all the MOT tests. Over there it's called TÜV. And if you don't have the paperwork, they fine you. So yes, things are way more restricted over there. But saying that you can't do modifications is not quite true, but people don't go the extra mile to figure out how they can. Because since I've cut many cars and we've done many infinite baffle applications, I can count now on two hands at least how many people have done it. And I always say that if you do a modification, do it properly. Because if they see it, and if it's done properly, they're not going to question it. I have a guy who cut out a huge piece from his floor in a van, in a transporter van for 218s. You literally have like a 12 by, 25-inch huge opening at the back of his boot. And it's done very professionally. And actually the guy is a teacher in a school how to build cars. So he made it as well, and so many others have done it. And I think you also have to know which garage to go to.
Yeah.
But if you do a dodgy job, they will start looking.
And you don't have any of those restraints there in the UK?
Even over here, the same applies. If somebody does something very dodgy and unprofessional, they will question it. If they can see that it affects the car's structural strength or something like that, then they would question it. In Germany, probably if they saw my Honda, they could question how the car would behave in an accident, because technically the back of my car is now stronger and it wouldn't have the same crease zone
crash
when
zone
you get
impact,
Yeah.
No, I feel like that's true though. Like when, I can speak for some clients' cars where they've taken their car to a dealership, whether it's a Porsche, whether it's a Tesla, and the dealership has to do something to the car, they see the install, they see the behind the scenes of the install, and they're more impressed, to where if it was a shitty job, they'd be like, dude, your car is fucked. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they will blame everything.
No matter what, they're just going to start blaming, versus respecting the work that's done and being like, wow, this is really good work. We see stuff like this all the time, and it's never to this level. Like, we always see just cars hacked up. So it just gives a lot more respect when somebody sees it done correctly.
Yeah. There's also a factor where you just can't control people. I had a client back in 2018. We built a pretty insane system for him in a E63 AMG, and they wanted to play him. He was with the same dealership for many years. He bought many pretty expensive cars from them for himself, for his wife. And after we built the system, he took the car for service, and they wanted to rip him off by saying that they couldn't find the OBD port because they could see that there was a custom audio system built in the car. And now, because they can't see the OBD port, whoever built the car didn't put it back. They have to install a new one. That's going to cost him this and this and this amount.
Oh, gosh.
And then he called me like, Pete, what's happening? I'm like, hey, are you by the car? Yes. Get your torch out on your phone. Just lean underneath the steering wheel and look up. The port is there, 100% there. Because I put the panel back and it comes bolted onto the panel. And he was like, yeah, it's there. I'm like, well, walk to the manager and have a word with them, because their employees are trying to rip him off. And yeah, he made a big scene out of it. So that's another thing that you just can't control. And that's why many people are worried, because recently we had a client who approached us with a beautiful Ferrari 812. And a Ferrari is definitely on my list that I haven't worked on yet. And you know, he talked to the dealership and they said, no, you can't even change a cigarette lighter in it or nothing. Otherwise, your warranty will be affected, da-da-da-da-da. And then yet you see so many other shops building Ferraris in UK. So some people don't dare to step forward and say, hey, I'm just trying to change speakers in the car. It's not mechanical. But if somebody backs off and, okay, then I don't do anything to it, then what can you do?
I know in the States we have something called the Magnuson-Moss Act, which is basically a act put in legislation to protect a owner of a vehicle that he doesn't have to put in manufacturer-specific parts to do anything. So if I have and I think, I'm not sure if Tesla kind of found the loophole, because they don't technically have dealerships. They don't call them dealerships. So they don't have to abide by the same laws as like a Mercedes and a Porsche, all these other places that have dealerships. But generally speaking, the act protects an owner of a car, where if you have a Honda and a part breaks on your car, that you don't need a Honda part to replace it. And the warranty's not going to change based on aftermarket parts being installed in the car.
So if all your speakers crapped
Correct.
out and if you want to change them.
Amplifiers, speakers, whatever you do to a car, technically there's no dealer that can just be like, hey, you installed this aftermarket stuff, your warranty's void.
We have another thing in UK though, which is something that many people don't realize why we have a lower number of people who would spend money on their audio. Is the fact that people don't own the cars. Here it's not popular to buy the car, especially if it's an expensive car. They just lease it. They keep it for 3-4 years and then they just swap it to a new one. And if you lease the car, you're not going to do shit to it. Yeah. Nothing. Or you want just a plug and play upgrade that you can swap easily. And we've done plenty of those as well. We took a car to Eurofinals last year, which literally had plug and play upgrade, and we took it in a factory OEM class. And the car was stripped out in a single day, put back to factory.
I did like a $50,000 install in a Porsche lease once. That was crazy. And everything went back to...
was the system in that?
About 3-4 years. Yeah.
That's good.
And then everything went back to factory.
Yeah, because I was told in the past, because we have a client who changes the cars every 3 years, and they were like, what's the point? I'm like, well, the point is that that guy can enjoy that system for 1,000 days, and then he swaps it out again, and then he can enjoy it for another 1,000 years. Based on that, you can live your life, literally have no audio system in your car. So I don't know how you're going to look back when you are 70-year-old and you never try things. That's how I can easily convince people when they worry about modifying the car. I'm like, well, when do you want to do it?
Yeah.
When you're 80? You won't do it. Or, oh, my car is too new. It has a lot of value. I'm like, how long are you keeping the car for? Oh, maybe 5, 6, 8 years. So, okay, so 5 years later, you're going to be okay modifying the car? Why don't you do it
enjoy
now?
it.
Then you can enjoy it for 5 years. Or, oh, yeah, but the parts are so expensive. I'm like, the parts are not going to be expensive down the line 5 or 8 years later. Don't buy the spare parts now. Buy it then. Or by then you will have plenty of breakers having, used parts. Yes, maybe my attitude is different. I don't want to be the boring guy always saying that, live your life to the fullest and who knows what comes tomorrow. But in fact, I don't know. We all lost family members unexpectedly. It just changes your attitude. When do you want to enjoy things in life? When?
I've never been afraid to cut stuff, that's for sure.
Everybody has a different background. Some people buy an expensive car after a very long time, saving up for many years, and then they worry. I get that.
Yeah, it is. And there's obviously a wide range of customers between those that are, stretching to get the car of their dreams, and the people that are like, this is just one of many in my garage, and so there's a lot of perspective.
Like me, Gary, I just got the car of my dreams after all of this time.
And are you going to cut it up? You going to cut it up?
Yeah. I mean, why not? Well,
I think your idea of cutting stuff up, my idea of cutting stuff up, and Peter's idea of cutting stuff up varies dramatically.
Well, to be fair, recently we haven't done so many cars where it would be difficult to turn it back. But when we did, we kept all the pieces that we cut out. Like we have one car currently in my circle of clientele, which also competes. And in the last 2 years, it won the finals in Salzburg. That car has more holes on it than anything you can imagine. Like the back wall of that truck is fully cut out for 2 18s. Then the kicks has 2 6.5s, and then now it also has a 12-inch up front, all in IB. It's a Swiss cheese. But when people hear it, they get to experience something completely different. It's difficult to walk away from that once you heard it.
So where did your journey start? At what age were you what was your first introduction to aftermarket audio in a car? Was it a car?
I didn't even have a car. But I already had car audio gear. I don't know. I just always saw the opportunity to have a system in a car as the ultimate freedom. I was raised up in a small flat in a block. You try to listen to music, the neighbor from 2 floors down was coming up, and it wasn't even loud, but they were always moaning. Concrete walls were traveling the bass like crazy. They were smashing the pipelines in the flat, You could hear the banging. They were giving you a sign that, don't annoy us. So as soon as I had enough money saved up, license, everything, I was 21, I think, when I bought my first car. And what was the first thing? Not a full service, no. Let's put gear in it straight away. That's where it started going seriously. But even before that, we were fitting systems in friends' cars who had a better financial background, and I don't know, they got a car from the family when they got their license at the age of 17. We were using car audio gear even when we were having house parties. We got batteries and whatnot, and that seemed to be an easier solution for us. And then it was a hobby, a very passionate hobby, while I got into the live sound engineering industry. That's where I learned things that not many people in the trade can say. And I was 24 when I started to push it really, really crazy.
When you started, what kind of gear was it? Like, was it name brand stuff? Was it Did you start with the bottom rung? What?
In Europe, we had quite many brands that you wouldn't necessarily know on that side. 'Cause especially from Germany, we had a lot of second-hand gear. Like, for example, I give you a brand name called Amphaser. Have you ever heard about that brand?
Nope.
I'm sure it never made it global. It was very well known in Europe as a premium German brand, and they had really good gear, good sub speakers, amps. So I had quite a few things from them. I had JBL amps, the good old, not the Crown, the one below, whatever it was, I don't know. But yeah, we were playing with second-hand gear mainly. Then, of course, after a few years, you realize that maybe I should buy a head unit that has some DSP capability. Then you got familiar with time alignment. Wow, images shifting. Woohoo! That was game changer. But I already knew that I had to go fully active. Not many people were doing that back, I don't even know, like 17, 18 years ago. I knew that I had to go active. That's where it kicked off. But even then, I could understand already that installation was super important. And I was really fed up with the opportunities we had. Because originally I'm back from Hungary. And over there, you didn't really have the money to play with not just great gear, but like buying all the, accessories and soundproofing, doing fabrication. Everything was limited. And then even from those limited things, I could still create better sounding system than most. Things went crazy when I moved to UK. Then, of course, after you established a stable life, what did you do? As soon as you had a bit of money, you started to buy second-hand car audio. Especially over here, you had so easy access to good quality gear. And British were giving it away relatively cheap because they could afford to buy new gear. They were not holding on to it, or they were not trying to keep the second-hand value so high. So I don't know, at some point I think I had almost every single piece from the DLS A series, all of them. I became a hoarder at some point.
It's not hoarding if your junk is cool.
Yeah, then you have so many, then yeah, okay, how many amps can I fit in a small hatchback? It was good fun.
So where did the fabrication education come from?
Nowhere.
How did you just
Nowhere.
You didn't like
Honestly,
what influenced you?
I started to buy power tools. I had experience with power tools because even when I was doing live sound engineering, we had to fix speakers. We had to help others around us who were experienced in welding or anything like that. So it wasn't like completely alien to me to grab a power tool. Plus, I always had the passion to work with tools and work with wood. I wanted to be a carpenter when I was young. But it wasn't such a great idea from my parents' perspective to let me become one, because it's such a stupid thing, but I guess you also have kids. And Matt, how old is your eldest?
Oldest is 17.
Because I know you have.
And 8.
Okay. So those big life choices are coming, where to go,
yeah.
what school to go
yeah.
to. And my parents didn't like the idea that I would go to a trade school to become a carpenter, because they thought that it wouldn't be the best idea to go to a trade school where the school is flooded with, it's difficult to explain or say, but not the best looking kids with the best reputation. So they rather wanted me to go with my friends who were going to higher education. And I just didn't have the chance to become a carpenter. But when everything came together, I could see car audio as the ultimate place where I can deal with sound. I love designing and installing systems, not just in clubs and concerts and whatnot, but also in a car. And then you can create beautiful things with fiberglass, wood. And then I just started to buy tools, and I was working out of my little garage.
And
figuring out how to make circles. That was no YouTube.
And what year did you kind of start, not professionally, but like just getting into it when you realized that this was probably going to be your path?
I made a conscious decision when it was 2014. So yeah, a good 11 years ago.
Okay.
I knew that if I wanted to make it in the trade, then I would have to show it to people first. So that was my project with the Honda. That's where it started. I shared every single step of it. Back in the day, we had an online platform called Talk Audio. I don't know if you know that.
And you said this
It
is
was similar to
2014?
Yeah, not a long time ago, 11 years ago.
It seems so long ago,
And-
even though it's not long ago. That's when
Yeah,
Tom
well,
Miller
you're still
won
young.
Installer of the Year in 2014.
yeah. And yeah, I was documenting the whole build, everything, every single step of it. I built it within half a year. It had I had a lot of gear, so I had to make a decision on what I would use. So at the end, I ended up with the previous generation Fokker Utopia tweeter because I preferred the transparency and the detail of that, because I also had a previous generation Brax freeway. And even if I liked that tweeter too, but somehow Fokker fell closer to me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had the previous Fokker 3W2 mid-range. I just fitted them in little pods. Tweeters were on the pillars, pods were close to it, mounted on the sail panel. But I preferred the Brax mid base, so I fitted that in the door. Because everybody does that. And then Peter learned that it's shit. I did everything to that door. I soundproofed the hell out of it. After a few months, I found that this is just not cutting it for me. Then in the competition lane, people were giving you advice what to do. Let's make solid mounting. I'm like, well, okay, I do that. I had a 5mm steel plate bonded to dual 18mm, so dual 3/4 inch plywood. At the end, the panel was close to 25 pounds. Bought it to the door. So I mounted the mid base on it. Okay, it helped a bit, but then essentially was still playing into the door. And yeah, Japanese car. I had lead shot bonded to the door card. I had all sorts of crazy solutions. It was still not good enough. But that's where it started, with old school phase linear amplifiers, which again is a brand that probably don't know.
I've heard of that.
I know Phase Linear. Actually, I'm old enough to know Phase Linear. It had a stint here.
Because they had, first it was phase linear, then it became phase evolution. They made stunning high-end gear. They had amplifiers which were running off a separate power supply, a 48 volt power supply. So the amplifiers didn't have power supply in them at all. You could feed 4 amps from one supply running on higher voltage. I built a really nice build. Everybody wanted me to go to competition, so I turned up on the finals actually in 2014 with the car, just so I could meet many people from the forum. And when I turned up, everybody was like, Pete, you gotta compete. I'm like, why? I have no documentation, I have no nothing. The system was literally turned on the night before. I was still screwing the speakers into the car at like 6 p.m. I had a Pioneer P99 RS, so at least that had decent DSP capability compared to anything else that was on the market. I think that time you already had Audison Bit One, I think. Yep. Or others were playing with Pioneer ODR, Alpine F1. And I had a quick tune on the car just to make it work. I went to the show. They pushed me into the highest class because my gear was insanely expensive as a new price list. Secondhand, it was cheap. But they put me into the highest class with people competing for hell knows how many years. And at the end, when the results were coming out, they called me out first as the last person in the category because I lost 25, 30 points on install. I had no documentation, nothing. And over there, you have to have a book with you showing every single step. Over here with Emma, you have to do install, not like in America where you can choose if you do or you don't. So I lost many points on install, but then the guy announcing the results just stopped for a second and he just went, hang on. How come that everybody has full points in install and you lost like 30 points? In this class, people, they know the game. I'm like, mate, the system didn't play yesterday. Like, what do you expect from me? But then he just went, But also, guys, hang on a second. This guy got like 263 for sound. That didn't mean anything to me at the time. I didn't know the platform scores or anything. And then everybody, literally, I was at the end of the row. Everybody was leaning forward, checking, who is this guy? Because when they said it, the sound was like 263. They were like, well, that's like a very good score even at the Eurofinals. Like, yeah, okay. That's when quite a few people realized that I'm not just doing it as a DIY guy from a tiny little garage at home, but I might be capable to do more than that. That's when Hybrid Audio UK approached me. They were asking if I wanted to join the team. And then I thought, okay, they may give me a bit of experience in the field of competition. And that's where it just started rolling.
Had you already made the decision to switch and have this be your full-time gig, or did that come later?
No, I knew it. I knew it from my childhood that this is where I would want to spend my time. I wanted to wake up and do car audio because I was already doing sound. I was a live sound engineer, and that was fun. That was great, but I didn't see that as a long career because it's difficult to explain. But you come to UK as an immigrant, you get into a circle where it's not enough even if you're great. You know, people are already in the trade for a long time, and as much as they can appreciate what you're capable of, but getting up to really high circles was very tricky.
And you're saying that in the pro sound arena? Yeah. And what was that, concerts? Was that like what kind of
everything?
Yeah.
Everything. From concerts to award shows, catwalk shows, everything, festivals.
And that was a combination of like actually setting up the speakers and then working through the mixing board and that side of stuff, or?
Yeah, I was front of house and a monitor engineer. Many people don't even realize what goes into that. Actually, being a front of house engineer is not a big task because you only mix left and right. If you have a band, let's say with, okay, let's say a big band, minimum 40 channels, that's not a big job. But when you are on stage and you have to mix that 10 times to every single person on the stage, that's the real challenge. Because let's say your bass player tells you that, okay, I want to hear my bass in my monitor. I need kick drum, I need hi-hat, snare. I don't need much of the toms, fine, okay. I need the lead guitar, I need the lead singer. I don't need the vocals, I don't care about them. But you had to mix everything individually to everybody. The way they wanted to hear their own mix. But you had the same amount of time to do it while the front of house engineer is doing just one left and right. Plus, big bands came usually with their own front of house guys. And by 2015-16, you already had digital desks, really good digital desks, and they could just turn up with a USB stick. So their profile was loaded up in like 3 seconds, whereas you were sweating on stage with the whole band. But that was great because that's where I learned getting reference from live sound, how instruments need to sound. I had competition where the judge was trying to explain to me that instrument doesn't quite sound realistic. I'm like, excuse me, what instrument are we talking about? And then he was showing it with his hand, like hitting. I'm like, okay, please name the instrument. I knew what he was trying to tell me. And he couldn't name it. And I'm like, are you saying the snare drum? As he was showing it to the rhythm. So now you're telling me that the snare drum doesn't sound realistic when you can't even name it. Have you actually heard a snare drum in real life? Yeah, it's quite harsh. I'm like, well, come on stage with me and tell me if it's harsh or not when the drummer slams it in your face and then your eyes clip. Because it's dynamic, it's loud. It's not a friendly instrument. And if it was recorded properly in a good jazz track and it's very dynamic, it's going to hit you in the face. It's not going to be a polite presentation. So, yeah, that was great, spending so much time on stage with musicians.
You obviously have probably played with many digital workstations and ways of mixing. And I'd love to hear your take on how those are set up versus the way car audio DSP software is set up, and if there's the similarities that are good and what one does better than the other.
Pro audio is so far ahead when it comes to technology. Is insane. That's sometimes where it's a bit frustrating that people can't even, work with the absolute basics, how to pull a system together. I'm not talking about competition level tune, but like just the absolute basics. How to choose crossovers, how to do basic equalization. Even these days, whereas in pro audio, it's insane what the engineers have to deal with. Well, even on stage, I don't know if you go to live performances, but it doesn't always sound great.
Right.
Plenty of concerts go down and you're thinking, this wasn't amazing, was it? It doesn't always work out. Not even for me back in the day, when you end up in a concert hall or in a space that you can't prepare for. You have to set up everything and then you realize the room is terrible. It's so untreated. Yes, the crowd comes in, that's going to help. But sometimes you struggle. And sometimes you don't even get the best gear from the hire company or whoever supplies the gear. Sometimes it's tough. But like on big concerts, things that you deal with is so much more complex. But at least in pro audio, you have the chance to learn. You have the channels. You can go to places. Yes, it's not free, but there are plenty of places where you can truly learn. I don't find that in car audio, or not even, there's a different angle to it. You can go to places, even in car audio, where you can learn how to set up systems and deal with DSPs, but people don't go. Even if literally everything is on a plate in front of them, they just don't go. It's strange.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and we were talking about in the States how many people we would like trust to tune a car, and not saying competition level, not saying Matty Schaeffer $50,000 plus system. I'm saying here's a $5,000 or $10,000, $15,000 system, and this person can get 75 or 80% of the potential. And how many people do we think have the skills to tune that system? And I feel like we're in the hundreds right here in the States, which doesn't seem like that many when you're talking.
And you have a huge industry, big country. Yeah.
10 per state, 500, maybe 1,000. What do you think, Matt?
I would say less.
Yeah.
The number that you would trust, or the number of shops, like altogether?
I would say the number of people, the physical people.
How many of those people are working at a dealer, and how many are enthusiasts?
Yeah, and to be fair, this is people who are like, where you could go to a shop or like professionally pay for somebody to do this. Not like people that we know, like people who are retired from the industry who can do it, like stuff like that. I'm just saying, like, you're a client, you take your car to someone at a facility in the States for them to do a decent tune, to get a realistic soundstage set up correctly, phasing's correct, like all of that's like kind of like what you said, the basics are all checked off. Because obviously you can really tweak things here and there to improve stuff, but to have all the basics done, where and it's funny because we mixed the last podcast that we did with Brian from Brian's Custom Audio. We put him in the center, Gary was on the left, and I was on the right, and we just wanted to see how many people would message us and be like, hey, you mix that to where we could figure out if our audio system is well, right? And I'm sure plenty of people listened to that and had no idea what was even happening in their car, like if it was any different.
I got a few text messages.
So, I mean, that was kind of like a fun little quiz just to see if people's simple left and right channels are correct in their car. And if people don't have an upmix system or a center, like, did Brian sound like he was a phantom center in the middle of the car? Because that's how it should sound in that application. So again, it's just I feel like that number is low because when we go to events and we listen to cars, a lot of the vendor cars at different events, they're done by local people, and obviously they want cars like that to show off their product. But at the same point, it's not always necessarily done correctly or tuned correctly. It might look good, but it might have glaring issues with the sound. But at the end of the day, vendors need cars to like show up for their product and things of that nature. So I've been accustomed to enough of those in-person demos where I'm like, man, every event that you go to, you hear multiple cars that like don't sound correct.
They should be able
like
to.
There's obvious phase issues happening.
well.
I can point out where all these speakers are emanating from, and I shouldn't be able to do that. Whereas like, sometimes, and it's generally always the same people, the same cars, or, the same couple companies that you're blown away by, and you're like, okay, this meets my expectations. This is done correct. So that's why I think the number is a lot lower than we think it is. Just because we go to events and I'm sure you do the same thing. You sit in cars and you're just like, wow, okay, this is not what I was expecting.
Just think about that, though, compared to the number of DSPs that are sold between DSPs and DSP amplifiers. And then you take that number of people that you think can do a halfway decent job of tuning one, and how many are out there that just sound like trash because somebody didn't know what they were doing.
Recently, I had quite a few cars coming to us. We always get cars for tuning sessions because I advertised on my YouTube channel that, guys, even if I didn't build your car, just if you feel like your system could see a bit of improvement, reach out. If I can squeeze you in, I take 100% guarantee. Not many people would do that. I always tell people that, hey, if you don't like my settings, if you don't like what I managed to get out of your system after a session, I delete it. You don't have to pay. You can leave. So far, nobody.
That's a pretty solid guarantee.
Yeah. Nobody has ever said that, Pete. I'm not sure. I don't like it, because the difference is huge. And then finally, recently, some cars turned up sounding. I may have to explain my scoring level before I do that. Yeah, just basically the car wasn't terrible. Like speakers were not completely out of phase. Sub wasn't out of phase, so it was okay. Spectral balance was acceptable. You had equal amount of top end, mid range, mid bass sub. And when I opened the DSP, I'm like, that's how, because they did nothing. Mm-hmm. They said crossovers. So when they try to tune and they try to play with the EQ or automated setups, with a microphone, calibration microphone that comes with the setup or things like that, that's when it goes so much sideways, worse, that we cannot imagine how they can make a system sound so bad when we build a system, and when you have the first moment when you power the system on, you have that, moment. We still get that anxiety when you turn the system on for the first time that, okay, is everything going to work? Mm-hmm. Nothing is going to pop, explode, or anything. You never know. And then, okay, everything came on. No turn on pop. Great. No floor noise. Great. Okay, let's just check every single speaker is in the right place. Tweeter, mid, and so on. And then you start to play music with basic crossovers, and okay, there's life in the system. So how can they make it so wrong from that point to the point where it sounds worse than factory? That's one big problem I'm seeing. But of course, how can we change it? I had few nightmare videos on my channel in the past where at that point of my life I thought that, this is needed. It's needed to protect clients and to raise awareness that when they go to any other shops, because of course we can't build cars for everybody. I'm having a small business, and how many systems can I build in a year? Not many. But if they go to another shop, they should have a checklist. They should check certain things with shops to know that they will get a good service. And then they turn up with absolute nightmare systems where the install is poor, sometimes dangerous, and it also sounds horrid. And I showed those videos back in the day on the channel. And those videos had the best view count, always. Because as much as, I don't know, maybe when people see that and they also went through similar shit, they feel better that it didn't only happen to them. And then they learn from it. Next time they go to a shop, they will know how to approach the situation. But after a while, I also realized that I'm just doing something very wrong for the industry. If somebody always shares only nightmare videos, then customers will actually walk away from, having that dream of having a system. Because if the only thing they see that's what they get, spending their hard-earned money, yeah. So I gave up on that. I have so much content, honestly. I have so much content. I could sit here for 3 weeks every day just sharing cars, where there were times when I faced situations and I had to walk out of the shop to cool down in front of the customer. I told him, like, sorry, I just need a few minutes. It hurts me dealing with so much shit. How shops can do that to anybody. And there were occasions when they actually did it to their good friends. The system was built to a friend, and then I'm like, what?
The question is always, is it that they're overconfident in their abilities? Do they just not know the right way? Or are they just, hey, we're just going to get it done as fast as we can? Like,
I think the biggest issue in our industry comes down to a shop charging the time that it should take to do the job. I feel like there's this big disconnect in car audio that you can't charge X amount of money to build a subwoofer enclosure. Like, some of the sub enclosures that I build are over $10,000 just for the sub enclosure, because that's how much time is invested.
Yes, that's the thing. You don't charge that system per item. You price for the whole project.
So there's people that are like, well, that's what the client wants, but the client's expectation is like $1,500 or $2,000. So they then do all of this work to try and get it done in a time where they're making a profit, and they have to skip over stuff, right? They're not declining the job, saying, hey, if you want something like that, it's going to be this amount of money. They take the job anyway, and they try and turn some sort of a profit. And by doing that, there's all of this side steps taken and everything not being done appropriately in order to do this stuff. Because I feel like there's not a lot of people charging what a job costs to be done correct.
I also started from nowhere. I was still building cars from my garage in 2020, 5 years ago. And nobody gave me any clue about how to run car audio business, how to charge for it, anything like that. I just try to base it on common sense. I charge by the hour. Yes, at the beginning it's difficult to estimate how long things are going to take. But after many years, you get an idea about how long a custom box or a custom pillar or sorting out doors with a mid-bass install, things like that, is going to take, wiring. You get a good idea. I had times when people who were in the trade for like 20 years, they asked me how I charge, especially after I showed a nightmare video where they recognized their own work, and they reached out to me that, Pete, thank you very much not exposing us. I'm like, I never do that. I show the shit work and I highlight what was done wrong, but I never mention the shop. I'm not that guy. They still hate me. It's a different story. But he saw it, he recognized the job, and he had all sorts of excuses that, long story. It's not needed. And then he asked me, like, Pete, how do you deal with big custom projects when it's difficult to tell how long it's going to take? And then we ran out of time. We were short on time, and then my son was helping, and then I didn't overlook him, and then he did this part and that part, which didn't look great, as you could also see, things like that. And I'm like, why do I have to explain this to you? You've been in the game for like 20 years. Maybe I take on projects differently. I don't like to stack cars up and then promising people deadlines that, I'm going to do it, and I just keep waiting, keep making them wait. No, I always look at the project, I put it in, sometimes for a longer period, and I only work on that car. I'm not working on 3 cars or 5 cars, stacked in the shop, and then I just do a bit here, a bit there. No way.
I think that there's also a really wide range in acceptable quality level to different people. Let me give you a scenario. A car comes in and you're gonna you're gonna make a set of mid-base adapters for the door, and let's say that you're using, you know, a solid plastic and ABS, or you know, you're machining an adapter, and you could hit that with a torch real quick and kind of clean up the edges. You could sand them a little bit. You can make it look nice. That's one level. The next level might be dusting it with a little texture coated paint to make it look a little nicer. And then, like, you know, Chris Yata would be in the back poly priming it and sanding it out to, you know, 1,000 grit and clear coating it. And you could take that same project and you could do it in an hour and a half. You could do it in 3 hours. You could do it in 6 hours. You could make it take 2 freaking days if you color sand and polish the paint that was on it. What is the acceptable quality level, and who is determining that? Is it you as the person selling the job? Is it the customer? And that's kind of the challenge on those big installs, that if you are like, hey, I want to execute this at a super high level, is finding that stopping point. And the crazier you are mentally about wanting to have this, you know, OCD perfect fit and finish or whatever that is, it can really make some things take a long time.
Well, that's kind of the benefit about documenting your work fully, like Peter and I do, is every client that works with us fully knows what to expect. Right? Because they see the behind the scenes, they know what everything is going to look like, and they're getting their own build log. So I feel like typical shops where it's much more of a mystery, that's when shit can be tickled behind the scenes. You know, like, you don't really know what you're getting. You can assume you know what you're getting. Maybe you're a client who asks for pictures of behind the scenes work, but perfect example, we did a Porsche Cayenne. We did a Porsche Cayenne a few months ago, where it was from another shop across the country. Did a bunch of Moscone Pro stuff, and they did like the Focal P60 kit in the front and the rear. And this specific client stated he thought the doors were like fully sound treated, things like that. And when it came to us, we just kind of like took everything apart, looked to see how the car was approached, and like there was just one little square around, obviously the door speaker. Nothing else was done in the entire door, and we all know that Porsches have fucking cheap door panels. So that's a problem. And if it were a shop that was more open-ended with the work that they do and more transparent, that customer's expectations would have been more aligned. And I feel like that's a big discrepancy of like the typical shop versus like what Peter and I do. Like any person that Peter and I are going to deal with, they're going to know the behind the scenes, the lengths we go to, sound treating a car.
Maybe we should also describe these typical shops in a different way. Saying that it's typical may not be the right word, but we know that most of the shops that work like that. Since I started traveling and training people globally, I got to know very different business models in different countries. But the way I see it is that where usually things go wrong, when you have the typical setup where you have complete disconnect between the sales team and the installation bay. So the sales team sells something, they promise whatever, and then they price it up, and they don't have realistic time frame. So let's say catering in the shop says that, oh, we're going to do it in 2 days, and then they drop the car off, and poor installers are like, what the fuck? This takes 2 weeks. So what do you do? So you go back to the sales team and you start arguing that they have to call the client that they sold something that's just not realistic. Maybe that's where I knew it from day one, that I have to be in control. What I'm going to fit is going to be sold by me too. I designed the system. I fit the system. Yes, that's where now I struggle. I can't get out of it. I'm stuck.
Yeah.
I have to replace myself, but how do you do that?
That's what I deal with over here.
You set the bar too high, and then shit, you can't just employ anybody, because people say, oh, Pete, you have so much work. Oh, you just find people. Yeah, it's not a supermarket where you just find people to operate a till. That's a tricky one. But yes, there are many many of these type of shops where the sales team would have to be trained, or that sales team should be dropped into the installation bay for a month.
Yeah. There's a
You
big
know, all right, you saw the job, now you come in, you get dirty, and then you do it with me.
Yeah, there's a big disconnect there. And I think that, I feel like we have an upper edge because we do promote ourselves through video. So people already like know us as the person, they know the work that we do. So there's already a help there's already a rapport built before we even talk to somebody. But I feel like, again, the standard general shop with a salesman who's a very salesman type of personality, I feel like they don't do a good job in trying to not take somebody's money. And a perfect example would be like, let's say I have a Tesla Model 3 and it's a new Model 3 and I want to do an audio system upgrade and I have a budget of like $3,500 with install. I feel
They will take it.
right. They will take it. They will have a $3,500 solution for you, which consists of just like speaker upgrade, generic small, even if they're doing an amp, maybe just a cheap line out converter, taking the factory signal, pumping the same shit out. And it's just it's not done correctly. So, I mean, that's a complete waste of, you might as well take $3,500 and throw it out the window. It'll probably be more fun than spending it on that and expecting a difference in a better difference in audio.
Yeah, the expectation.
Yeah. So like at that point, you're going to get a mad customer because their expectation's not going to be met. But from a salesman's perspective, if you could just articulate to that client why you can't expect an upgrade for $3,500 and that you're not going to be the one that's going to take their money because they have $3,500 to spend, and you tell them
They're going to go to another shop.
You tell them, hey, just hang on to your money. I'm being honest. Like, I could easily take your money, hang on to your money and save up for something done correctly. That way you actually get a return on your investment, but you just can't upgrade audio for what you're assuming $3,500 in the case of cars in 2025. So they'll respect you way more and now trust you the next time they want to take that leap of doing something, because they know that you're not just going to steal their money. You're going to do it correctly.
That's where more online education is needed, because even if I shared hundreds of videos, it comes up every day. Like, Pete, how do we plan a system? How much do we need to spend? And of course, everybody has different expectations, and every shop has different expectations to what they are happy to let, rolling out from the shop. But yes, it's not a cheap game anymore. Back in the day when we started, in one way I would like to go back, because we were happy with a pair of 6x9 on the shelf and a subwoofer. And we were happy with it.
We're also happy with DLP TVs. Don't forget that.
Things evolve. Back in the days, you had a car from factory with a small screen. Nobody really thought much of it. And Tesla came out with a huge screen that everybody wanted to have a screen in the car. Now you have screens everywhere. It's over the top. In car audio, the standard hasn't really moved up that much, I find. But still, things moved on. Technology moved on. We can achieve so much more. And until people experience that level, actually, maybe they are in a better place. Because maybe they think that from 3,500 they can get something decent. Okay, let's spend 5-6. From that, you might get something decent, actually. But if you want something really good, it easily goes above 10 grand. And that's when it's difficult for them to realize that, oh shit, that's a lot of money. Some people can, remodel a kitchen from that.
Yeah, I think there are I think the bulk of the car audio business is done well below what we're talking about on this podcast, right? Like when we're talking about doing systems and we're talking about the higher end and trying to really build an audiophile system for the car, those are big ticket items. But the majority of car audio business and a lot of those smaller shops and the shops that you see get excited when they get the opportunity to sell a $5,000 or $6,000-$8,000 system is a big deal to some of these guys, because what they're used to is their daily life is throwing a prefab box and an amp and an LOC in a car, and that's what they're doing most of the time. And so it is hard to try to find a way to grow those guys. And I think it's usually just the fire inside of somebody that puts them on a path to learn more and become better. And
I have a stupid analogy. But it works. It worked for me. If you only show Big Mac to people, to hungry people, what will they buy? A Big Mac. Yep. If you show to people what a filet mignon is, maybe those who only ever had a Big Mac, they will be like, why would I spend 4 times more or 6 times more for a filet mignon? They won't until they taste it. And like, holy shit. Then they may not have a Big Mac every day or once a week. They would rather save up and they have a filet mignon every 2 weeks. That's when we can educate them what they can get. It just takes a bit more time to save up. Don't waste your money on a Big Mac, which is going to be okay. It is going to tick boxes and you won't be hungry. But even those shops who do the simple little projects, it's their decision. If they want to move on, then work for it and they can move on. I always tell everybody, build a demo car. That's number one. If your shop doesn't have a demo car, why are you doing it? How can you show people what you're capable of if you just let them stand in front of a demo wall? That's a lie. It's bullshit.
And I would flip that to say that from a customer perspective, that I would never trust somebody to do an install that was, $7,000-8,000 plus without sitting in something they had done. Exactly. And hearing it and knowing that I was going to be like agreeing upon this is the sound I'm going to get for this kind of money. It's one thing to have a demo from a system like, oh, hey, here's our demo car. And we spent, 6 months building this thing and it's wild. And it's flashy. And it's got all this stuff and it's $50,000. Now give me your money for your $5,000 system. It's going to sound just like that. Like that's not realistic either.
Sure. Of course not. But then a demo car can have a huge impact. If it's done well. That's a different story.
Yeah, you can always overcook that filet mignon and ruin it too. So,
because we built many demo cars on different levels. I bought my current latest car that I use daily, as well as for competition as a demo car and everything. But I bought a car where I knew that I could get amazing results even in a very simple way without custom fabrication. I bought a Mercedes which has great factory locations. So in the first year when we didn't have time to design and build a good system, we just threw in mid-end tweet upgrade. We kept the Burmeister 8-inch drivers in the firewall because they're not terrible, and they are 8-inch mounted on steel. That's going to be a game changer when it's amplified. So we just added a cheap DSP amp and a subwoofer. That was it. We spent £1,800 on the gear, which was around, let's say, less than $2,500. That was it. And then people heard the car, they were like, what? Because he also took knowledge to understand what locations can work in a car and how you can achieve great results from it. We fooled so many people. They came to the shop and they were like, what mid-bass driver do you have in this car? I can't see anything. I'm like, yeah, it's in factory location. But what do you have? And then at some point, my employee, Eddie, came around and then he just felt like, I'm going to prank this guy. And then he went, we used a lot of Acoustic Elegance. And then Pete got some 10-inch prototypes from John from Acoustic Elegance, and we fitted the 10s up front. We have a 10-inch each side. And they believed it until the end of the demo, when I took them to the passenger side where it was easier to pull the carpet down at the footwell, and you could just see the top of the driver. And they were like, hang on, that looks like a factory speaker. I'm like, yeah, it is. I'm like, there you go, lesson learned. Location and application matters more than how much money you spent on a speaker. And yeah, that was more impactful to demo a car like that to people in that first year than having a 50 grand system after.
Yeah, and also for the people listening, there are upgrades you can do without spending $10,000 that will make a noticeable
Most times it starts with choosing the right car. My clientele goes shopping these days by looking at speaker locations in the car. They will pull carpets up and do crazy shit at the dealership, and dealers are like, what are you doing? They don't get it. I'm like, yeah, my people look at speaker locations and they send me pictures. Pete, what do you think of this car? And they don't send me a picture of the car. They send me a picture of the dash or something, I'm like, yeah, that can work. We can save their 50 hours of custom work. And we can throw a speaker in it and it's going to be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the car makes a huge difference. And I think that's why if you had, let's just say you have a shop where you have multiple salespeople or workers there, you have somebody with a smaller car, sedan, whatever, and then you have somebody with an SUV where everything's open. I would probably more err on the side of doing the same equipment in both cars. That way you can see the difference in sound between a smaller car and something that's open. Because that same system,
that's another story.
Same system, if you take like an Audi RS6 where it's all open, obviously the subwoofers are going to load really well off the back there. Everything's open. There's not a lot of issues when it comes to like the lower frequencies in that car versus if you have a traditional car where you have a trunk and you have all that pressure in the back and like your biggest obstacle is how do I vent the back to not have a buildup of pressure back there? Like all of that makes a difference. And obviously the width of the car, something smaller like our Tesla Model 3, it's very narrow. You sit very close to the dash. Whereas like an RS6, you sit way further away from the dash. It's a lot wider. The acoustics are going to sound totally different in both cars. You can overcome the issues with the car. Like the Tesla Model 3, you wouldn't think there's subs in the back. You don't hear resonance, like we did a good job relieving all the pressure. But at the same time, it's hard to replace the natural acoustics of like an RS6 where it is just open and you don't have to combat all of that pressure in the back.
You have quite a few competitors in the lane as well with Model 3s and they keep asking the questions like, how should I upgrade my sub? How should I do this, that? And like, well, ultimately, your biggest problem is that you started with that car.
Exactly, yeah. There's big issues.
If they don't do modifications, getting proper transfer function of the sub into the cabin, you can have anything. You can have anything in that car is not going to transfer into the cabin.
Yeah, like recently we just did a BMW M5 CS. And when we got that car, I was just like, shit. Because one, it's a BMW. The trunks are already sealed. The rear speakers are already pretty much sealed. Like they have they have the metal. It's not like open to the underside of the trunk in most cases. Yeah. So you can't just remove those rear speakers and have some sort of an airflow pass through. The rear seat, it's the CS version. So it's this very chintzy, light seat design where it's not necessarily a seat. It's like this hollow seat that doesn't have a ski pass. So I'm like, well, fuck me. Like,
and you can't modify that.
You can't modify. There's no modifying that. So I mean, what we had to do is we had to like cut and make our own big grill in the center of the trunk lid, right, to create some sort of a pass through.
You're saying on the rear deck? On the rear deck,
right? Yeah. We had to create a grill in the center. Yeah. And we did also remove the rear speakers in the rear deck. It still had rear door speakers, but we removed the rear deck speakers. That way there's just more air to flow underneath that whole rear deck that could also vent out of where the speakers were. And the difference that it made, because we did like a 13 TW5 in the rear, the difference that it made from everything being sealed, it was just unlistenable. You could not play it, period. It's like, well, you just can't, this doesn't work. To what we had after the pass through, it was at least better. Like it came into the cab and you're like, okay, there's my sub bass. It's at least doable, but that car, you're constrained with that setup. So it's like, okay, let's look at doing a footwell subwoofer enclosure, because that's the only way that you're going to get beyond the nonsense of this car. But then it's also like, now you're dealing with the functionality of, okay, does somebody sit there and how do they like to sit? Do they like to stretch out, or do they just do a 90 like most people with their legs? So the car is so impactful when it comes to an audio system. Like choosing the right car to do a great audio system is literally everything.
Yeah, but usually, what's the percentage of people who buy a car with that mindset? It's 1 out of 1,000, if maybe even less.
Yeah.
They just buy a car. I like the car. What can you do in it?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's some cars too that you just do, kind of like what you said when you first turn on the system and listen to everything with basic just crossover set so you can play the audio, and you're just like, holy shit, this car is going to sound good, right? Because already there's not big issues. You're like, wow, already there's great image here, right? And everything is very connected. And then some cars you get in and you look at everything and you're like, wow,
Oh, but now people could ask, listening to this podcast, okay, but which are those cars?
Yeah, like I think I mentioned it to some people, like the Lamborghini Urus, the Bentley Bentayga, they're built on the same platform. I feel like every time I do those and where I do the speaker locations, everything needs very little adjustment. Like there's no all-pass filters that are being implemented into that front stage because everything is just perfect. Yeah,
then you get the trade-off to like an Aventador, and then you're like, hey,
Yeah.
here's an 8-inch that's buried behind this panel that has 50% path-through that's like a bandpass enclosure for an 8, and a 3/4-inch dome tweeter. Good luck.
Yeah. And like I said, the next biggest hurdle, when you talk about choosing the right car, obviously the transfer function of the car, that's going to be built in the car's outline of how the speakers are going to sound within that atmosphere. And then the next biggest thing is going to be, okay, let's talk about construction of the car and the panels. Because again, I think Gary and I always point out, like a Porsche, a lot of 911 door panels, GT3 door, whatever it may be, like you can only get so much mid bass out of those doors where you're capping what the equipment can do to not have those door panels resonate. You can spend all day putting fucking treatment at every inch of that door panel, but at the end of the day, you're still going to hit natural resonance, and you're going to have to cap the dynamics of the equipment to not get to that point where you're hearing that resonance. So in some cars, you hit the natural point of where you have to cap the speakers. I feel like there's been few cars out there where you're reaching the potential of the equipment before you're reaching the potential construction of the vehicle.
Well, the other side of that, though, is location too. I mean, this is Peter's thing right here, right? Is that once you move that mid-bass driver to the kick panel, I don't care if it's an older BMW that came with, a 5 1/4 in the kick panel, or if it's, a new Mercedes with it in the firewall, the just like the woofer in the back, the loading in the kick is you're getting so much free output without stress on the driver from the location, in addition to all the benefits of not having to worry about the resonance of the door panel. It's huge.
And that's why designing everything's so fun, because it's like you're trading off all of these variables between functionality of the car, serviceability of the car, budget. Because again, creating a brand new location for something is going to come with extreme costs, especially, because anytime you're doing that, you're working with two sides. It's two parts that you have to make.
Rarely symmetrical either. Yeah. Like how much do you run into that, Peter, when you're doing the front mid basses?
The worst for us was that car that I mentioned earlier. That was literally like a Swiss cheese. That pickup, that Volkswagen Amarok pickup. In that, the mid bass took us 80 hours labor.
Oh wow!
Left and right. They were completely different. We had to do structural work. Of course, it was infinite baffle, so you need work on the wheel arches, airflow protection from water, things like that. That was 80 hours. And I use it as a reference to many people. I'm like, you want reference level mid-bass in the car, and if the car is so challenging, because we looked at it, and I'm like, it's not impossible, but it's going to be damn fucking hard. Until the client hears that it's not impossible, well, it's good enough for me. You can make it work, I know. But but it's going to come with insane amount of work. And the flip side of that was when we had another customer with similar approach. He knew that he wanted to build a competition car, get the best out of it. And by then he knew us really well. And he bought a Ford Focus ST. And he bought the car with a quick look at locations. And, oh, Pete, look at the dash. Handful space. You can put anything on the dash. Nice mid-range. Kick panel, pretty decent. There you go. You can do everything you like doing. I'm like, okay, but it doesn't work like that. You don't know what's below or behind the panels. And first we just booked it in for the first week. We told to him that we would just do full soundproofing, everything. So full strip out from the roof, floor, everything. We will pull the cables in, and by then we will see what's possible. So we looked at the dash as well. We started stripping parts of the dash when we realized that, one thing that people never see, how far the firewall comes in underneath the dash. And it was literally coming in like 5 inches right underneath the dash, parallel, leaving like 1 inch between the firewall and the top of the dash. And I'm like, I can put stuff on it. You can raise the level, but then it's not going to meet competition rules. So that's out of the question. We can't do a dash build. Then we looked at the kicks. I'm like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I had to use that other car as a reference where we spent 80 hours on the build. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but you don't have the budget. I don't want your car to be here for a week just to do mid-bass. Mm-hmm. Whereas within a week, I can make you a fully functional system with mid and tweet on the pillar, mid-bass in the shitty rattling door. We will do the best we can. It's going to be what it's going to be. We worry about it later. All the amplifiers can go in. We had 5 amps, another battery, a lot of wiring. But all of that could be done with a throw-in quick temporary sub. And getting that as a fully functional system compared to just 2 speakers installed in a week, that's difficult to swallow for many people. And I understand that many people want perfection when they hear cars built by us. But sometimes you just have to tell them that, hey, it's not viable. It's just not doable. Not in this car.
So what is your choice? If you had a customer that had, let's just say he had a $25,000 budget to build an audio system, and he's looking to find the best car to put it in to do what you do. Is 25 grand enough for the system? And then what car would you pick? Well,
labor is the most expensive at the places where we live. Maybe in UK, labor is not as expensive as in the US. Of course, we don't want to compare it to Far East, where labor is a fraction. So over there, people can budget equipment differently. But if labor is the most expensive, then that's where we try to be clever. So you will start with a car where you can achieve usually the most difficult part. I always say that mid-bass is the killer in every car, always. So get a car where mid-bass can be done easily, effectively. And what do most customers want? They want that kick feel. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants that tight kick, slap in the chest, and usual thing. Everybody wants to feel it. Like, which band is amazing without a good drummer? If the drummer turns up on the gig drunk, everything falls apart. It's the same with systems. And then you don't have many choices. Then I say, you need the Mercedes, where you have 8-inch drivers up front, and you can have a 2-hour job swapping out the speakers, and then you get freaking amazing result that you will never achieve in other cars without hard work. How many shops do we see where they put beautiful drivers in the doors with some LED lights around them or fancy panels, beautiful trimming, and then you can't enjoy the system above 90 dB because as soon as the speaker starts to move, everything falls apart. Or I have the classic expression for poor performing mid-bass. Yes, some people hate me for that, but I just say it's literally like hot fart. It's just speakers flapping, making... And I put certain songs on. Even I just came back from China and I had to show it to the guys. I'm like, just play one song. Blue Monday from New Order, if you know that track.
Yeah, I do.
It starts with just kick bass and it has a part when it's like triple kick. And in good systems, it's literally like a shotgun. And you can turn it up as loud as you want. Speaker doesn't move much because it's not low bass. It's like 80 to 120 hertz, really tight, dry, thin kick. If the car can deliver that and you can feel it, job done. But in reality, even in competition scene, you have 1 out of 50 cars that can actually do it. Every car can achieve, ticking boxes on the score sheet. Okay, it depends on what competition format they have, but they can get the boxes ticked when they play at 80 dB, and that's cool. I don't design systems like that. My systems have to do at least 100, 105 dB at least at the front end. Some people want more. They want 110 plus. For that, you need to build a car solid as hell. And if you don't have budget for the fabrication, get a Mercedes. It's game changer, honestly. BMW is still a better option because at least the speaker is not in the door, it's in the floor. That has its own challenges, but you can get that nice punchy feel, and you have 8-inch drivers. Other than that, there are not many options where I would say, okay, maybe now the new Mazda, they have speakers in the kicks and you can do nice solution there. What do you have? What would you say?
I have a Prius that I've been working on that we're going to take to MasterTech, and I've been happy with the dash locations and the factory tweeter locations. It's a small hatchback.
Oh, that
nothing-
part is that part is amazing.
That
I didn't
part's
even
amazing.
talk about mid-range or tweeter locations. I was just talking about mid-base because to me that's always the biggest challenge.
That car is it's okay, but I'm running the scenario where I run all 4 doors and the rears are running from about 80 to 130, and they
Just to give
they
you the
fill in
extra.
just a little bit, and
It's
yeah,
tricky.
it is.
I just came back from China literally yesterday. We're over there. Nobody ever heard a front sub.
I saw a
we did
picture
both.
of you. Was that something for Morel for their deal,
Yeah.
or was that just part of the trip, or was that the whole part of the
That-
trip?
That was the main reason, yeah.
And
How
what-
many
what
good
I'll-
products do we have on the market, honestly? How many good brands? If now you're not tied to any brand, you're a completely independent shop, I could name at least 20 brands and I could use their gear and we could still build an amazing car. Right? We have the popular brands usually. We can list easily 5 to 10 brands, top brands. But at the end, it's about the install and the tune. They may have the best speakers,
100%.
but if the install is not done right, and at the end the tune is not done right, then how good is your gear? So often, just what we mentioned earlier, you go to these big shows and they have demo cars over there, and you know that certain people can deliver, but like 80% of the demo cars as well, even from brands, they are usually pretty underwhelming, average or below. So that's where Morel came in, and they asked me to help. Many people were surprised. I haven't even shared much of it other than a few little stories, this and that, plus whatever Morel shared already. And I already got many messages, emails that, Pete, what's up with you and Morel now? Because you've never really been a Morel guy. Well, the fact that we didn't have a good representation of the brand in UK is another story. But why would I say no to a company, such a reputable company, when they are asking for help? And they literally treated me like, I don't know. I can't explain, but everything was amazing. Plus, getting into that market over there to seeing what's happening there. We have no clue about the Far East, especially China, do we? We don't see anything from there. And they wanted to make a difference, where now there's a new distributor, and they wanted to make sure that they will train their shops, their installers. But in order to explain to them why they need to do certain things, they have to show it first. So that starts with a demo car built to another level other than just mid and tweet on the pillar, mid-bass in the door, and a sub at the back, because that's the standard. And yes, even with that, you can get a good sounding car, but we can go beyond that.
So you're saying nobody over there had done a front sub yet, and so now that you've been there, is somebody raising their hand saying, I'm going to do it, or?
Well, as soon as they heard the car, we finished it only a couple of days before I was coming back. But in a few days, we took the car to quite a few shops. Distributor has 70 shops. They have a huge franchise. straight away. They could tell that this is something they never experienced. Then it clicks for everybody.
It's
okay,
hard.
this is
hard
how
to,
it can
hard
work.
to simulate a good front sub. I mean, we just did a couple days ago a Boxster where we started out with this install where it was just going to be, I mean, not budget by any means, but also like just concern. Again, it's a small car. To do a sub, it's a lot more work. So we tried to get as much as we could get from a P60 kit on a Helix V8 where we run everything active, factory rear speakers, and trying to get as much mid bass as you can out of those shitty doors. But again, that's going to be your weak point. So it's like knowing the car, knowing where your weak point's going to be. So he ended up coming back for a front sub. When we initially built the system, he left a space for another amplifier underneath the hood. That way he could easily go to a sub upgrade quickly without a lot of modification. We just did one of the 10-inch slim Helix subs. And that actually has a very deep footwell in that car. So, I mean, he could still get to like his fuse box little opening thing on the passenger side. So it's not even like we built
Coming any
we
further
came
than
further
that.
than
Yeah,
that. The factory airbag still had clearance to come down. But
because those also have.
But that car, the front sub, and again, we relieved a lot of the mid bass that was coming out of the door, just kind of ruining that experience, and put it into the sub. That fucking sub sounded incredible, right? Top down, top up, doesn't matter. I mean, you just had so much commanding
impact.
presence.
Yeah.
Center of the dashboard, and his reaction when he listened to it was just like, oh my God, that is like such a crazy difference. Because again, it's like having a car that sounds clear versus a car that sounds believable with just a simple upgrade.
You know, why do we go to concerts and why do we expect to feel the music?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we have headphones on everybody? It's not the same experience. People want to feel music. That's one of the biggest connections globally, that it's universal language. We want to feel the music. So it's the same in car audio. Usually when people say that, oh, I don't want a system, I don't want to listen to it loud, usually those are the people who want to turn it up and they leave the shop and then they just crank it. So rather design a system beyond anybody's expectation, make it capable. It doesn't mean that they have to play it loud, because some people hate me. We go to shows and usually if we have an average 20-30 minute demo to somebody who wants to jump in the car, the last 10 minutes, you can tell that that's going to be loud. You will play songs as far as you can push the system. And yeah, many people don't like us because our cars create waves. And you have to show it. What's the point of a V12 engine if you don't, sometimes you don't trash it. You just sand it. Sand it. Maybe I'm addicted to that as well, coming from live sound. If I go to a drum and bass gig, following day I go to a jazz gig, I have different expectations from those musical genres. I'm not going to listen to drum and bass on baby levels. And that's where you have to educate the installers that, you know, in order to be able to tick all those boxes, you have to look at it differently. Even these guys never built enclosures for mid bass. Never. And I designed a system for them months before I was going out. And they were like, oh yeah, no problem, we deal with it. I had no idea how they would approach the project because it was a Porsche Cayenne. And I think that's what you bought right now as well. What year is yours?
2021.
I would have to check what year we had, but potentially similar. And the guys 3D scanned the inner skin of the door as well as the door card. And they 3D printed the prototype enclosure around 7-8 liter, which is around 0.3 cubic foot, which goes into the speaker hole as far as it clears from the window. So they get extra space there. It goes to the exact shape of the inner skin, meeting the door card. You literally have a couple of millimeters from the door card, and they only had to cut a little bit away from the pocket on the door card, where they also printed a cover that's going to be trimmed, still leaving 2/3 of your pocket. And for a prototype, yes, it needed a bit of deadening to make the box a bit more rigid. It worked amazingly. Now, in China, fabrication and craftsmanship is easy. So now they have the prototype. They know it works. The next is going to be made out of aluminium. It's just mad. Like seeing how efficient they are. And young guys in the install bay knock out things on the CNC so quick. It's actually frightening. They're so skilled. When it comes to technology, it's mad. They 3D scan the pillar and then they 3D print a pod for mid and tweet in a couple of hours, and by the end of the day, mid and tweet is installed. Okay, it's not a beautiful pillar that's fully blending or anything like that, but they get a nice sounding sound stage with plenty of mid-range detail up at eye level. They make it clear to the customer that, hey, it's one of the ways to do it in a very cost-effective way. We don't see it here because we don't have the technology or the investment capability into machinery. But over there, it's like standard for them. It's crazy. But because they don't have the experience how to do the little things, how to make a mid-bass rattle-free, how to isolate things. I don't put a single panel back into the car if we have the budget and the time that I wouldn't look at, let's say, side panel on the dashboard where you usually have fuse boards and things like that. I don't put it back without looking at the panel. Okay, is it going to buzz and rattle?
Right. Yeah.
You get the tester tape out, you get your thin foam or anything, and you isolate those things and you put it back, it's not going to buzz or rattle. They don't even think of it. They just put everything back. And I'm like, hang on, did you look at that? Or they build this beautiful 3D printed enclosure for the mid-bass and they didn't put any carpet on it to isolate it from mounting it to the steel or isolating it from the door card. And of course we had buzzes. I'm like, guys, door card off. I told you to do it. You forgot, no problem. Now we do it. Job done. So they just need a bit of help, and they are very efficient. It's actually better that the world doesn't see what they are capable of, because many shops would feel bad about that they can't even make a normal mounting ring for a mid-bass. They make it just out of MDF and it rots away in a year. And they just knock it out on the CNC in like 15 minutes. They take the factory speaker off, they take a picture of it, okay, they scan it in. In 15 minutes, they are installing the mid-bass.
That's cool.
We had a Bentayg actually coming in the last day. 5 guys jumped on it. They did 4 doors, speakers on the dash, which is not simple. You know best to get to it. But the car was having fully upgraded speakers everywhere, fully soundproofed and everything. In 4 hours, the car was rolling out. And I was like, what just happened here? And they live stream, and they
like
live stream
a pit crew.
everything. Yeah, and they live stream everything. Now that's another thing. There's no room for hiding shit. They live stream everything. I asked them at the beginning, I'm like, what is 2 guys doing all day here on the phone with a stand? They chat, they talk. I'm like, what is this about? I'm not used to it. They're like, no, we live stream. I'm like, the whole day? Yeah. So when I was there as well working, they were live streaming to me too. I didn't even realize they had cameras everywhere from every angle. And they interact with clients. They bring jobs in. Plus, they get to see everything. Everything. It's
When do we get
different.
this, Matt? When does Mosaic get live stream all day?
Dude,
they
there's
would love
so
that.
much reach, and I've said for years. So like, obviously, I do a lot of different types of social media. YouTube is such a grind, and it's not like I'm an idiot.
It's
I
hard
know
work.
that it is hard work, and I could reach so many more people if I wanted to. I just have to put the work in, right? So like the evolution of
fine.
my channel, if I wanted it to be one of the main staple car audio channels in the world, like when I go to Expo, right? I'd have to vlog that whole fucking trip. Have the behind the scenes, the flight, the bullshitting around in the airport, fucking landing, talking to vendors, going out to dinner with vendors, like to bring people behind the scenes of everything. That's the path to grow my channel to where it would be a staple channel like the rest of you guys have. but I just don't have
Rest of the guys.
that
Who?
time.
But who has a channel like that? Honestly, who?
So like, and reach wise, like Mark from Car Audio Fab.
Yes,
I feel like you
Well-
do pretty well on YouTube. No,
25K subs.
yeah, that's what I have. Like exactly what I have. It's such a grind, and I've
You-
had it for
you know
so
what we
long.
do from it? Nothing.
Yeah,
And people complain, why don't you share content more often? I'm like, do you realize what it's like to run a business, do the
yeah, it's
installation,
tough.
do everything else, accountants, whatnot?
Yeah.
They're like, no. When? There was a time when I realized that YouTube was a great tool to reach out and share content, 100%. But at the time I was working from home and I had a completely different dynamics.
Yeah,
When you run your business, you can't do it. And then, oh yeah, but you can employ somebody, he's going to make the videos for you. I'm like, well,
yeah. I feel like TikTok has been good.
it's difficult.
Because it's easy to edit a video that
That's
does
true.
well very
If-
quickly. Like I can push out videos to TikTok well before getting it in front of Final Cut Pro and chopping up a video and putting it onto YouTube. And now that TikTok has removed the watermark from the video that you create, now I can just throw that on Instagram and share it there. Because like I never did Reels before, but I've been doing
That's good.
Reels recently, and it's more of a demographic that works with our clientele because there's older people on Instagram versus TikTok. A lot of TikTok is
I don't have
25
brain
and
power for TikTok.
younger.
It's
Yeah.
just everybody keeps telling me, I'm like, guys, sadly, I'm too passionate about what I do. Sometimes people say, oh, you shouldn't worry about the people commenting, but
Yeah. And that's the
I
so like
can't.
yeah, when you so like whenever I post radar and laser integration stuff onto TikTok or Instagram videos, it does so well because everyone is so ignorant on the laws. And it's also the laws are different everywhere in the world. So you have all the people from Europe where it's highly illegal, they're commenting, and then obviously it's being aired it's a US video, and half of this, more than, it's only illegal in like 11 states. But people don't understand that. And people also confuse radar jamming with laser jamming. Radar jamming is federally illegal in the United States. Laser jamming is legal in every state but 11. So it's like there's so much misinformation and everyone's so confident in the comments that they just fucking argue with each other, and the videos go fucking mad. Like I just posted a BMW X5.
it's good for exposure for sure.
And on Instagram, that video I posted last week has 1.7 million views just for
Wow.
radar laser. And I get business from it, and it's self-promoting because everyone just argues in the comments. And it's a rapid way to also gain
If you can
followers.
put it to the side and not to care about the comments, then
Yeah.
yeah.
Pe- people will comment and just be like,
Yeah.
this is highly illegal. And I'll just comment illegal where, right? It's just keeping the comments going so the video just keeps fucking going and keeps going and keeps going.
I have one of those videos now. It's been running since last June, when we cut a floor in Singapore. I made a half a minute little reel, and it's at like 1.6 million on Facebook.
Yeah,
It's
I could
just-
see people
and
people
still
commenting about shit like that. Yeah.
Well, of course, I knew that it would trigger people seeing a floor cut, even if we do it regularly. But that's pretty much how long they can be, sitting in front of a screen, half a minute. That's it. So that's where our channels on YouTube don't do well, because we don't do the fancy, flashy camera movements and editing and whatnot. It's not so impactful. We chat around the car, we explain the system for like 20-25 minutes, sometimes even longer, and then you see the statistics. People watch it for an average of 2 minutes, except some people who run YouTube channels where they put in time and they have amazing skills to edit it. Like EXO, I love him. Yes, he does the loud stuff, but that's a different level of entertainment. If we chose to do that, you would have to change the whole business. People want everything these days because everything is so fast, everything is in your hand, and they expect you to run content everywhere. Sadly, it's getting to the point when it's yeah, exactly. You have less and less time, unless, I don't know, You just point fingers in the shop, or you don't even go to the shop. Everybody else does the work for you if you find the staff. And then you just create content.
How many guys
But
do you have? Is it just you? Do you have other
It's
guys?
just me and Eddie. Eddie has been with me now. It's coming up to 4 years. And we tried. We had a guy in 223. We were positive that we could train somebody up from pretty much ground up. Because I find that if we get somebody with some sort of experience, sometimes it's more difficult because you have to retrain them, and they just cannot just delete everything they've done in the past, even if they think it's great, but it's not. And the problem is that we don't deal with the simple little systems where I have projects coming in every month where you just do a 1 week job or couple of day job that pays the bills. We don't do that. So we got to a point after 3 months where we were looking at the following month after probation, because we had a 3-month probation for Matt, the guy who worked with us for 3 months. And I was looking at the following month, and we were doing custom mid-range installation on a dashboard that at the end took us 60 hours to do it so precise, so accurately for highest level of competition too. A lot of 3D printing, a lot of fiber filling, a lot of crazy stuff, leaving super tight tolerances for trimming, everything. Then we were doing the 12-inch sub in the footwell in IB, which comes with structural work as well as making it pretty at the end. AMTs hanging on the pillars, all that custom work. I'm like, what is the guy going to do? Just standing there and looking at us? So that's the problem. Like, how can you find people who can get up to that fabrication level so quick over here without relocating their families? When I advertised for vacancy, probably 70% of the applications came from abroad. People send me emails from Mexico, from Germany, all the way from Australia. Pete, we want to come and work with you. I'm like, yeah, but it's a big stress for me too. Like, what if it doesn't work out?
Yeah.
Of course, you have to give it a go, but I'm not an immigration center either. So after Brexit especially, it's not that easy even getting people from Europe anymore. They have to go through tests and whatnot. It's tricky. And in UK, finding people who have experience, they live locally within, let's say, 45 minutes of drive, it's tough.
Yeah, because they also have to be passionate to want to be better. That's the biggest thing. Find somebody, even if they're not interested in what you do, somebody with passion who cares about the work that they perform. That's the number one most important thing. If you can have somebody that can get better and get better and get better. Yeah,
I know a company in Europe where they have 8 or 9 installers, and their business is rather focusing on soundproofing, basic speaker upgrade. And out of all those guys, only one guy is passionate enough to push it further, who is really interested in creating nice sounding systems. He came to my training as well 2 years ago. All the other guys don't even care about what it's going to sound like. I went there. Most of them knew me. They didn't even come to see the car or hear the car. They didn't even ask for a demo, nothing. And I'm like, you have the opportunity to hear European champion level, crazy audiophile audio system. You don't even want to sit in it? There's not a single car like that in that country. None. They didn't even bother. So what do you do with those guys? Of course, there's one who is pushing it, and he's now building an insanely crazy audio system for the shop, so they can have a new demo car and a new standard. They can attract new clientele with that, which may not be good for business, because we know big installation time projects are not necessarily good for business, while they can turn around 6 to 8 other cars with simple setup. It's very tricky.
Yeah, it's tough because it's just me and Aaron for the most part, me and one other guy. 4 years ago, it was just me doing all the sales, all the install, all the managing.
Same.
So obviously we can turn more cars now. I think last year in total we did 47 cars.
Jesus,
it was a busy year last year. 47 from start to finish the whole year, and because there's a lot of stuff that we do that's
insane.
That aren't We do a lot of jobs that are big jobs. Like, last year we did a Bentayga, a Urus, a Audi RS6, and just all three of those together were probably over 250, 275, probably close to 300K for just those three jobs.
You can't get those projects over here.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Many people have money. Many people can buy expensive cars, but you don't have the culture where people could justify spending so much on an audio system or modifying anything on their cars. They just don't. I find that in the US, you have such a different culture where, stupid example of mine, I say that, if you have a baby, before the baby gets a name, probably also gets a registration plate. That, you have cars and anything moving in your DNA. And you see all these TV shows, programs, people work on so many different type of vehicles. You have motorsports more than anywhere else globally, I think. So you can find those clients who will pay. We are still in a better position probably in Europe, here in UK, but then you go to many other countries, and like, for example, Hungary, where I'm originally from, car audio is, at a very different place. You hardly see fully custom built big projects. Hardly ever. People can't afford it. They have completely different income. Gear costs the same. Cars cost the same. Installation might be different, but then whatever is left in their pocket every month is so much less that it becomes a whole different level of luxury to have a custom audio system. And then you have crazy examples from Far East where some guys, save up for an iPhone for years. That changes the game.
There is a car scene in the UK though, right? Like there's, customized, people still lower cars, wheels, tires, custom interiors, paint jobs.
It was booming in the 90s and early 2000s. We had this Max Power scene. They had a magazine where
I remember that.
They modified cars to insane level. You had fish tanks in the trunks and things like that, or classic movie, LEG, right? Unfortunately, that's the past. You don't see it anymore. Car scene is still busy, but people mainly spend on stunts, nice wheels, air ride, paintwork. And then, of course, you have the classics. That's where big money is spent, on classics. But then on classics, they don't spend on audio.
Right. More restoration than custom on the classic cars over there? Or a little bit of both?
Oh, even at the industrial estate where we have our shop, there's a restoration company and they have few projects into the millions. Like classic Aston Martins, from James Bond movies and whatnot, and they are into the millions. But when it comes to audio, nothing. So it's tricky. We have plenty of work, but that's the problem. I can't reduce waiting time, which now went to a point this year that I never thought. By the end of the first week of January, we got booked till the end of the year.
Wow.
And I pulled the line at November. I'm like, guys, I'm not booking anything else. You also have to deliver those projects. And I travel a lot too. It's mad.
I feel like we're a little over an hour and 45 minutes so far, and we haven't spent enough time talking about cutting holes in cars, which is what you're famous for.
How know about cutting holes in the cars? Yeah.
How did this happen? How did you become the infinite baffle to the outside world guy? Like, you told us about the Honda, and that was like the first big.
Started. Yeah. I was just obsessed with low end, like getting extreme low end in a car, and I didn't find any other way to achieve it without building huge boxes, getting dynamic bass from large drivers, because I come from live PA. Over there we were playing with dozens of 18-inch subs, so musically, it's a very different experience from tiny little 10-inch subwoofers in cars, which have potentially great X-Max, but it's not like when you have two 18-inch drivers moving a little, but they move air. So that's where I got this crazy idea to cut the Honda, fit two 18s in it, and then let's see what happens. And then the rest is history. Some of the guys from the US were over here at Eurofinals and they heard it. When I had the most insane iteration of the Honda, I had two FI 18s, the IB application version drivers. They were not the most accurate, but you could do silly things with them. And we were doing 145 dB at 15 hertz.
Oh, jeez.
For an SQ car, that's unheard. You know, people didn't believe that can be integrated to an SQ system and it can still be enjoyable. And the car was literally playing all the way down. I was pushing my Zapco amps, which had no limitation, at 2 hertz. I was demoing the car at the show. They were flexing at 2 hertz. Amp could deal with it for 3 minutes. Then it shut down. Restart, it worked again. But yeah, at 5 hertz, I was demonstrating to people that actually the car is moving up and down. You could see the car flexing like half an inch because it was pushing the pressure to the ground. And it was very great lesson to show to people how your brain resets. Because when you hear 5 hertz, you get back to 20. 20 sounds like 40. It's insane. I was coming back from 5 hertz. I asked everybody, where do you start to hear clean sine wave? And they were saying 13, 14 hertz. They could hear a sine wave. And then when you flipped it up to 20 hertz quick, it sounded like 40. You go to another car, you don't even hear 20 hertz. Nothing. Just some cone movement. And in mine, it sounded like 40. That's where we maxed out the score sheet pretty much for multimedia class back in 2018. The guys had to rethink how to judge the class because I left almost no headroom for giving more points. It was insane at the time.
How much of the music that you listen to has information? Like, did you have to go hunt for tracks that showed that off? Or
on Tidal, I have an IB playlist that has many songs in it. The problem is when you don't have a system that would show it, you will never know it and you will never miss it. But once you have a system that's capable, then you just become obsessed. Mm-hmm. And most of the clients who heard my cars, yeah, it's one thing to build a correct system that stages well, that's, you know, pinpoint, realistic, and it's another thing when they can experience that added value when it comes to sub bass at that level. It's very addictive.
Can you anchor 15 hertz in the front of the car, or is it moving so much air that the airflow itself becomes noisy?
You can't deny. No, it's not noisy, but you can't deny that it's coming from the back. You know, when you have that level of pressure coming from the back, you can't deny it's coming from the back. It's impossible to create that illusion that it's coming from the front. But at that point, nobody cares about it. You don't listen to music with the same mindset. You are not listening to Diana Crow at 80 dB, dark, engine off, you know. Then you listen to music in a very different way. It can still be integrated. It's still part of the system. It's, you know, not drawing attention as such. But it's an experience. That's the reason why I called the dedicated Facebook page I have for the Honda as the ultimate in-car sound experience. It's cheesy, but it's somewhat true.
There's obviously a point where if you have put so much low end into the frequency response in your tune to show off what that is capable of at 15 or 20 hertz, that there are going to be small blips in songs where like you didn't realize somebody like rubbed something against the drum or whatever it was. Something happened. I've heard it before in systems that I've done that are not at the super low bass level you're talking about, where you find something that pops out in the music and you hear the woofer move and you're like, wait a second, was that in the song or did something happen? You go back and it's something that's in the song that you never had heard before. Yeah. Does that happen a lot? Or
I always wonder when you can tell it was intentional, they put low frequency in the song, how they could actually hear it in the studio. I don't know. There are songs where they put those low frequencies in there intentionally. I found many artists that have single digit notes in music. It's just a drop. It literally moves the car. And when the system creates it really well, it can reproduce it really well, it just takes it to a whole different level.
And you're saying that the fundamental is in single digits, it's not just harmonics of something else?
It's an impulse. It's
Yeah.
just like a shockwave. It's weird, but there are many songs like that in different genres. Okay, in electronic music, it's easier to recreate it. In acoustical music, you will hardly ever find it. Hardly ever. So it's not like you can't live without that crazy bass. But if somebody gets obsessed, I think it becomes almost like a lifestyle. It's difficult. It's difficult to talk about it without experiencing it. Once you experience it, then it's up to personal choice if you want it or you don't want it.
Yeah, we did a Camaro that we just finished up last year that used two acoustic elegance 15s, and what I gotta say is probably the strongest infinite baffle setup I've seen. You know, a TIG welded aluminum framework that braced the back of the car, and 6-inch thick baffle. There was a lot to it to make it strong, and that reached just below 20 hertz with some authority, but by the time you by the time you have enough, you leave enough information down there, there's certain songs where it just didn't sound realistic when you like playing that kind of in between. So I assume that every one of those vehicles you do has sub-level control, and when you're really playing down low, you're putting extra energy into it.
Of course, if you have headroom, some people will use it. They can push more. It's always good to have headroom. That's when I always tell people, if they want proper experience, don't just plan a system with a single 15.
Yeah.
Get a minimum of single 18 or two 15s. If you do trunk IB, like M5, what we were talking about, you can have two 15s without making it overwhelming. It will blend in. But of course, you also need a front end that's capable to integrate to it. If the front end is not capable to tie to it, then it will become disconnected. And yeah, that's why you have to understand how to do good mid bass or front woofer. I these days I'm kind of worried to keep saying front subwoofer or front sub. Now I just started to call it front woofer, because then it works easier for people's brain. If you say you have a subwoofer at the front, subwoofer at the back, they're like, whoa. Maybe in 10 years' time, everybody is going to be clear about it, why we do it. More people will experience it. I think that's more important, how you can integrate crazy bass from the back to the front than how crazy the bass is on its own at the back, especially in sound quality cars. Yes, people can say that I have my current car and it's fully OEM. You sit in, you don't see any modification. Yet I cut the floor and I have a 15 in the trunk. But I could swap it out. I could put one of these 13 W7s in there, build a huge box, a lot of weight, big power, and it would still do it. Those are capable to play low. But it comes with different sacrifices. I have to carry probably like more than 100-pound weight in the car. Something for something. And surely my clientele certainly enjoys bass, and there's nothing wrong in accepting that and saying it out loud. If somebody likes to turn the system up and liking bass too, it doesn't mean that we are bass heads. But then if some people say we are, then so be it. I don't care. Again, it's your life, your choice. If you want to enjoy music, sometimes loud and with bass, okay, people can say that I'm not a purist. I'm not a pure audiophile. I'm always ever listening to jazz.
I think that's totally fair. I think that if you go back to your food analogies, that just because you have a favorite meal doesn't mean that's the only meal you ever want to eat. I do have a question. I want to see Matt's response. When you're demoing that, I assume that you're demoing that past the resonance of the car, and that you can't control the pressure and the vibration that's happening at 15 or 18 hertz in the car, and that you start to hear mechanical noises in the back of the car.
Yeah, you have to soundproof the shit out of the car. Yeah.
and even with that, you're still like, panels are still buzzing, and I mean, 145 dB at 15 hertz is moving things.
To be fair, no other car could ever deliver that to that level other than the Honda. We haven't built anything to that level or beyond. Nothing. So let's say if you have 215s in trunk IB, if you can reach 135, 138, it's perfectly enough to have headroom over the front end. But then if you find music that can deliver beyond 140, then you will build the front end equally loud too. When you have mid-range and high frequency playing above 110, 115, that bass is going to blend in. You won't hear panel vibration because everything else is screaming at you. Same with a concert. You have so much bass that if you turn everything off, only the bass playing, the whole building would be shaking. Mm-hmm. But you don't hear it on a concert, except if you go to Vegas and you listen to some of the top-end rooms where they literally did extreme treatment to the room. I've seen some rooms in Vegas where they have, honestly, insane insulation on everything, on the wall, everywhere. So they can play just bass pounding in the room with like 50, 18-inch subs and nothing vibrates.
Just the ice and the drinks.
Yeah. Sometimes some people have to push the limits. Otherwise, how would it be more colorful? Not many people push it to that point. In the US, you have many. I know many guys who like designing and building crazy systems, sound quality systems with capability to turn it up. But of course, we know it's hard work, a lot of labor, and that's where the other difficulty comes, the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we can inspire people to, aim and dream about more.
Yeah, I think there's also a lot of, the other side of this, we look at it from a very professional, shop-oriented point of view. And there are a lot of guys that are just, this is their hobby, this is their passion, they have a day job, and they come home and they focus on designing and building systems for themselves and don't have the experience. But I think a lot of time passion wins, right? Like the guy who's willing to sit and watch every video and learn and go out into his garage and make mistakes and cut up his car, whether it's, a $3,000 beater or a $300,000, exotic car. He wants to give it a try. And I think that a lot of time those guys actually win and do very well.
That's where passion wins. And it's amazing to meet those guys on meetings because you speak the same language. Now I organize a camp in Hungary where people come for a week and we just have fun. Some people now prioritize their holiday just so they can come there and we can spend the week together. We do a bit of car audio, we listen to music, but ultimately you meet people that speak the same language. It's just so great. I have my own Patreon channel where I have over 400 plus subscribers and those guys are insane. Probably 90% of them are DIYers and they do it themselves. Last year at the US finals, we had a beautiful success story. Some of you might have even heard about it. I don't know. Few videos went out after the finals and people were asking which car was the most memorable. And that was one car that was built by somebody around 50. I don't want to make Ramsey now sound older. Hang on, how old is he? 56, 7, I think. He built his first audio system himself with my help. He got a system in the car, wasn't amazed by the shop that did the work. He wanted to go beyond that. And he had no skills, no experience, nothing. He bought basics tools, router, jigsaw. He even went to the level, he even surprised me. We talked about fitting the mid-bass on the floor in IB in a late 80s, early 90s Mercedes. And he downloaded an app on his phone to scan the floor, send the file to a shop where they deal with 3D scanning. The guy 3D printed the mounting, came back perfect, mounted it on the floor, cut the steel, fitted 8-inch drivers in IB, job done. The guy never ever did anything in his life. Fitted a 15 in the trunk through the floor. In true IB, mids on the dash in factory location, and we fitted tweeters on the pillar. That was the only thing I physically helped with. Cheap gear. I think the whole gear in the car was around $6,500 retail price. Not like 50, 60 grand systems like some of those top competitors have, or even more money. And many people were talking that car was memorable. It sounded insane, honestly. Yes, I was there helping, tuning and everything. I was demoing the car as well. So to the second day, people realized that I'm there, because I didn't make a big fuss out of it. I didn't want to put it out and then, oh, Pete is here. But when they figured it out, we got to the point that the queue was so long that they were starting the results. I still had like 5-6 people standing by the car. And the owner was like, Pete, come on, we gotta go. It's, results are kicking off. I'm like, hang on, whose name is on the list? Yours. You go, I stay. And I still had people jumping in the car, even just for 2-3 minutes, just 2 songs, quick. They're like, Pete, we never have a chance to hear anything from you. Coming from Trinidad and Hanos, random places. And for them, those few minutes meant more. I know how much it means for them to get a validation when they watch so much content and when they can hear these creations too.
Mm-hmm.
That can change their lives, and you can see it, you feel it, and that's amazing. That's one of the main reasons why I like traveling and meeting people, because that's special.
How many trips did you take last year?
I went to US twice, I think. I went to Singapore. I had several trips to Europe. Yeah, this year is going to be a bit crazier. But I also have to weigh up if it's manageable, because it's getting very tiring, organizing mainly. Now Morel also wants me to help more and more. They could literally move me out to China full time. There's so much work over there, and they need so much help. But I explained to them that it's mainly my problem. I have to figure out how I can be more involved. Because I built up a company from nothing. I have a child. I can't just give that up. I can't. It's difficult. Once you have your own business, how do you change from that? Matt, if you had to get a job from somebody else, where would you go?
So here's a fun fact. So before I moved to Delaware, because I was in Northern Virginia, working for a company called Safe and Sound for a large part of my career. And before I moved to Delaware, I had a job offer to be the national sales for Focal in the States. I was also going to work with Jeremy Carlson at Avant-Garde, or where I'm at now. And the reason I chose where I'm at now is because it's still somewhat local to where I grew up in Maryland, which is the neighboring state here. But it also gave me the ability to utilize an infrastructure that I didn't have currently. So like we have like 20 loaner cars at our store. So somebody who's not shipping their car, they can drop off their car, grab a free loaner car, drive it around for the duration of their install. So the logistics for me doing what I do is easy. When people ship their cars to me, we don't have state sales tax in Delaware. No state sales tax. We're one of 2 states in America that does not have state sales tax. So people save a large amount of money on a job not paying sales tax. So, I mean, they could be where Gary is in California and essentially save what would be free shipping.
Almost 10%.
On a big project like that.
So it's like I might as well be a competitor to a shop in California at that point. As long as you're cool with shipping your car, it's all, enclosed, insured transport. But if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, I don't know what I would do. I'd have to do something where I'm still creative. Like the creative side of what I do would still have to happen to some degree. And you could define creative as content creation, maybe. I really don't know. I haven't thought about it to that type of point of as if take me out of a shop, what would I be doing? I don't know if I can answer that at this point in my career. I love hearing everything once it's done, seeing the reaction of clients when they see their car. And it's always fun when you do a lot of the fabrication side of things along with the sound quality, because it's like two separate demos, right? You get a reaction on the fabrication and you get a reaction on the audio, which a lot of times I like letting them listen to the audio first, because when you're listening to everything and you don't hear fucking shit resonate and shit flap around and it sounds the way it sounds, and then you get to see, holy shit, that's what it looks like, and I don't hear any of this shit moving or making noise. I feel like that becomes an even better response to the fabrication.
Yep.
You know,
Impressive.
like the Tesla Model 3, again, you have all these amps underneath the subwoofer enclosure, and then, you know, you're looking at everything in the trunk and you're like, these are the subs that I'm hearing up front, and I don't like, it doesn't sound like they're trapped back here, and it just makes it more magical at the end.
And that's the thing, you know, passionate people in this trade get together, which is so difficult. We could probably talk for another 5 hours. Time just flies so easy.
It does.
I think Gary has a question for you.
I do. Someone gave me a question, told me that we were not allowed to have you on if I did not ask about your famous plum juice.
Whoa, that goes back. So, plum juice story. Okay, no, that's fun. To be fair, this is one of the things why many people should come to Salzburg. In US, I haven't seen any competition, seen anything where the community would come together like what happens in Salzburg on the party night. So Eurofinals is a 3-day event. The second night, there's a huge international get-together in the evening. People share their drinks, their food. They have stands, and then, you know, Germans are cooking German-style food, and then guys from the Netherlands, they have chips and whatnot, and then everybody shares their drinks as well. Well, originally I'm from Hungary, so of course I have good resources to crazy palinka. They say Hungarians are the richest on the planet because they make alcohol out of fruits, and that's expensive. Like, you want to make alcohol out of cherry, good luck peeling cherries one by one and things like that. But we have literally every type of fruit that you can imagine, and probably the most popular is out of plums. So one year I took 3 liters, 2 liter and a smaller 1 liter. During the day when I was competing, I just left the big bottle on the table. We had a beer bench, and old competitors and their friends got together, and on that day everybody's just losing themselves. Well, Peter's drink got everybody to the point that we almost had to call ambulance.
Oh gosh.
Everybody got out of the hall, of the competition hall, to the other room where we had the party, except the British team and their friends. Like 20 people were still there, going crazy. When I got out of the car, when I was like, okay, it's enough for today for me demoing and judges and everybody, I got out of the car, I was walking to them, and I saw a guy holding that big bottle, like getting the last sip out of it. I'm like, Jesus, you drunk all of that, guys. That's like, it's like 54% alcohol, very strong. I'm like, shit, this is gonna be serious here. And then I sat down. They were like, come on, Pete, you have to catch up, you have to drink. And I'm like, well, only alcoholics drink on their own, so somebody has to drink with me. Poor little girl who was sitting next to me, she was like, I'm gonna drink with you. And I could tell, I'm like, oh darling, when was the last time you tried to stand up? Because she was so unstable. I'm like, why? I'm like, just please try to stand up before I let you drink more. And then she could barely stand. I'm like, fuck. That girl was pulled away like half an hour later. They literally, two guys had to pull her away. So at the end, we managed to get to the hall before jumping in other competitors' cars, and we were playing the stupid British game, how many people can you get into a Mini? Right? We had games like that too. And so many other things, group photos where crazy things happened. People didn't even notice on the group picture, and it comes up every year. When it's Eurofinals time, one of the girls always shares that picture, a group photo where Andy, one of our old European champions, pulled her bollocks out on the group picture and squeezing it onto a side window of a car where people were sitting inside demoing. Actually, that was my missus sitting in a car, and then just looked to the sides like, what's that? Hairy balls stuck onto the side window. It's like, what's happening here? Honestly, it was out of control fully. Then we made it to the party hall where we were jumping up on a truss system on a stand, and everybody was doing pull-up challenge. T-shirts were flying off, flexing, and just, it was mad. It was probably the craziest experience anybody has ever seen. Some people ended up behind the stage, unconscious. And then people were asking me what palinka it was. I'm like, well, I think it was plum juice. I got it from a friend. At the end, the funny thing is that it wasn't even plums. It was made out of grapes. It didn't matter. But at the end, yeah, they were advertising it as Peter's plums, which also means something else in British. But yeah, that thing never happened since. I don't even know if we can ever recreate that madness. You really need a group of people who are ready to go crazy. Plus, at the time, we also had the Russians at Eurofinals, but because of the war now, it's not going to happen for a while. But when the Russians were around, they were drinking very, very heavily. Those parties were insane. You can't even imagine. People were dancing on the top of the cars. It's not dark like in a club, it's daylight in the hall, and everybody's smashing it like crazy ravers. It's an experience. That on its own, coming to Eurofinals and just getting a taste to that when people lose themselves on the party night, I think that single thing is worth to come to, because everybody is into car audio and everybody's just having fun.
Sign me up.
Sounds a little crazier than car audio here.
Yeah.
Oh, you have no idea. It's honestly, I told even last few years to people in the US, I'm like, guys, just let me know if you want to come. I help organizing, logistics, where to find hotels, this and that, how to get there. It's easy. And it's crazy experience.
That's awesome.
That's the plum juice story in a nutshell.
Love it.
That's awesome. Well, I think it is time.
Who arrived? Yep. I have to go work and get ready as well. We are going out.
Enjoy your night. Thank you for giving us your time. It's been a long time coming.
I'm grateful we could make it, and then hopefully maybe this year we can also somehow meet each other.
Yeah.
So I will have quite a few trips. There you go. Eddie arrived as well.
Again, we appreciate you for coming on, hearing your story.
Thank you.
We only scratched the surface. You'll be on again at some point. And
maybe people can share a big list of questions and then we just go through it more strategically.
Yeah. For sure. Well, thanks again. Enjoy your evening. And next time you are headed stateside, give us a heads up and we'll try to figure out.
I'm planning to go to Aggieland.
Okay.
That's going to happen. Just to tick another box. Hopefully I can make SVR. Hopefully. And I'm planning to do SEMA as well at the end of the year.
Cool. Maybe we can get Matt out for SEMA this year.
Yeah.
It's been a few.
Maybe we can get that black and prime rib again.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We have some
good.
good
We have
some good food in Vegas.
Good.
You bring the plum juice, we'll bring the black and prime rib.
I'm not sure you're going to handle that.
Alrighty.
Brilliant, guys.
Awesome.
Right,
Great.
We'll talk to you later.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy
Have a great
the weekend.
evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And